Hey viewers, my name's Cara. I'm your Tuesday host on the Pagan Perspective, and this week we are talking about belief in deity and magic. Our first question comes from LuckyDude531, who says they have been studying Wicca for well on 4 years now, and their question is it possible to have a working partner who doesn't believe in deity but is interested in witchcraft? I had to think back on this for a second to think about whether or not I've actually ever done spellcraft with anyone before, and I have, and they were Christian, so this definitely helps me answer the question. I was going to talk about how other things that I've done in small groups have been sort of celebrations of either the solstice or the equinox or just one thing or another. I've done that sort of thing in groups. But as for spellcraft, I do it mostly by myself, so I really had to think about whether in my experience it has come up, and now I remember it has. And Annie gave a very good explanation again, so it's probably going to be a repeat a little bit, but I would agree that as long as you and this other person agree upon what it is that you are doing, then it really doesn't matter what your beliefs are in everything else. As long as you can sort of compromise and come up with a ritual or a spell or whatever you're doing that makes sense to both people. Because if one of you is totally for it and like, yeah, this is exactly how I do things and I totally believe this is going to work, and the other person is saying, I don't know, I really think we should do it this way, then it's not going to be as good for that person, and thus you're not both working toward the exact same goal if one of you has sort of misgivings about the situation. So I think that as long as you talk about it beforehand and sort of decide what you're going to do and make sure that that thing that you're doing makes sense to both people and fits whatever beliefs both people do have, then definitely it can work. Because people from many different religions can practice witchcraft, and it doesn't really matter which deity they believe in. Witchcraft isn't just a pagan thing anymore, which is kind of strange. But I know people of other religious beliefs that practice witchcraft, and they may choose not to use the term witchcraft because they don't like that, but it's the same thing. So I definitely think that it could matter what both people's beliefs in deity are, but as long as you talk about it and come to an agreement on what you can do that you both believe in, sure. The second question of the week comes from CthulhuChick666. Did I say his name right? They asked, how does the power of belief and confidence in your work affect the effectiveness of your magic? In other words, do you find that having second thoughts about a spell can decrease its power? For example, I'm not sure this spell can really fix the situation. Again, Annie had a lot of good points on this. I especially liked when Annie said that you should think before you do something because there's no time to think afterwards. And that kind of reminded me of things that I've read in different spell books where they say, you know, you think about your intent the whole way through, you plan it out, you decide what your intent is and what you're going to do, and then you think about that intent the whole time you're doing the spell, and then once the spell is done, you forget it. Forget it and let it go on its course, because dwelling on it and thinking about it might hinder its movement forward into the universe. And Annie also brought up the point that once you do a spell, it's gone to the universe, and nothing that you think about it will ever change that because it's already gone and you've already sent it on its way. But I do think that, especially for some spells, take longer than others. So I think if you start a spell and put it out to the universe that is meant to take longer, like if you know it's going to take a couple months to manifest, I do think that if you're having second thoughts and thinking negative things about it during those couple of months, I do think that it has a possibility of sort of hindering that spell's movement into the world. I keep wanting to say comeuppance. That doesn't make any sense in this context, I don't think. So on the one hand, I do think it's gone, it's done, it's over, but I think that you having negative thoughts about it could still hinder it. And at the same time, I really like the thought that, you know, you should just forget it once it's gone, because one, that keeps you from having any second thoughts that might cause it to falter, and it also just allows you to calm down and forget about it. That's also the reason that we read all the time that part of the pyramid is to keep silent and don't tell anyone about a spell that you're doing, because just in case anyone out there would want your spell to fail, they could be sending it negative energies too. And I think that that wouldn't be part of our worry if we really did just think that once you send it out, it's gone and it's going to happen. So I think there definitely is something out there about how magic works that we are worried about negative energies causing it to fail, both our thoughts and other people's thoughts. But to get away from talking about the negative second thoughts for a moment, I'm going to talk about just belief and confidence in your work and how that affects it. And I am constantly explaining to people that magic is about your will, and it's about you believing in it, and if you don't believe in what you're doing, it's not going to work for you. This actually reminds me of something you guys will see a little bit later on my personal channel, but I was just at the medieval fair, and while I was there was a father and his children, and the children were looking at the little marbles that they have for sale at the mine for 10 cents each. The sign just says American marbles, and the father told his kids that those were magic marbles, but if you didn't believe they were magic, they wouldn't work for you. And I just had to smile at that, and I was like, good going, Dad. That is a great thing to tell them, that they're magic, but if you don't believe they're magic, they're not. I strongly believe that it is your belief in something that gives it its power. Like if you have a lucky article of clothing, someone else might think it's just some filthy rag, but if it has meaning to you, that's what makes it special to you. And that's why anything can have magical significance if you give it that significance. So yes, I think that belief and confidence in your work has a ton to do with the effectiveness of your magic, and if you don't think it's gonna work, it's just not. And besides that, the only thing that I think can hinder our magic, if we totally believe in it and we totally want it to happen, I think the only other thing that could make it not happen is if for some reason or other it is not favorable by the gods or our gods. And people have been asking me about that a lot recently too, and I do think that, you know, when I do spellcraft, I ask the god and goddess to be there with me, working along with me, to speed my magic, to favor it, to whatever, to help me along. And I think that if they think what I'm doing is a good thing, they will help me. But if for some reason I have this notion in my head that what I'm doing is a good thing, but it really isn't the best thing, I think that they will say, whoa now, we don't agree with that, and they won't let it happen. So I do think that asking the god and goddess to be a part of my working and aid me in my workings allows them to say, you know, you might not have the best idea this time, kid. So I think that even if we have this super strong belief and we're so confident that what we're doing is gonna happen, if it's wrong and it shouldn't happen, I don't think they'll let it. Or I don't think the universe will let it. Or just something in the universe knows what is good for it and will not allow bad things to happen. I think. For me, at least. And just because this quote has been coming up a lot recently in my life, just in the past couple of days, and I think it kind of fits both of these, I would like to offer you what Aunt Jet Owens says in Practical Magic. You cannot practice witchcraft while you look down your nose at it. So that's my video for this week. I will see you guys next week for the collab's 2-year anniversary, second birthday, the collab's second birthday, and also my birthday is Tuesday, so. And then after that we'll have a couple of subs weeks to give the regular hosts a break as we get into the 3rd year, and then we will see you again in September after that. So thank you very much for watching. Again, I think I've already said that, and blessed be, and I will see you next time. Bye.